Sophia Bennett stood in the empty hall of the Riverside Community Center, her fingers trembling as she held the eviction notice. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the cracked windows, illuminating dust particles that danced in the air like tiny reminders of time running out. She pressed her palm against the worn wooden wall, remembering all the laughter and hope these rooms had witnessed over the past 15 years. Her father had built this place from nothing, transforming an abandoned warehouse into a sanctuary for families who needed support, job training, and a sense of belonging. Now, 3 months after his sudden heart attack, Sophia was watching his legacy crumble under the weight of unpaid bills and mounting debts. "Miss Bennett?" The voice of Rosa Martinez, the elderly receptionist, pulled her from her thoughts. "This came by courier. The man said it was urgent." The envelope was made of expensive cream-colored paper, embossed with a silver seal that Sophia didn't recognize. Inside, she found a letter written in elegant script that made her heart race with each word. The message was simple, yet bewildering. Nathan Sterling, the founder of Sterling Technologies and one of the youngest billionaires in the country, requested her presence at his office the following morning. He had a proposition that could resolve all her financial difficulties. The letter was signed with a bold signature that somehow conveyed both authority and loneliness. Sophia had heard of Nathan Sterling. Everyone had. The man was a legend in business circles, known for his brilliant mind and complete reclusiveness. At 38, he had never been photographed with a romantic partner, never attended social events unless absolutely necessary, and lived in a fortress-like penthouse that no journalist had ever penetrated. The meeting. The Sterling Technologies building rose like a monument to success in the heart of the city. Sophia felt small as she entered the lobby, her simple navy dress a stark contrast to the sleek elegance surrounding her. The receptionist barely glanced at her before directing her to the express elevator that led directly to the penthouse. When the doors opened, Sophia stepped into a space that took her breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, but the office itself felt cold despite its obvious luxury. Everything was precise, minimal, controlled. Not a single personal photograph or warm touch existed in the entire space. "Miss Bennett?" The voice came from behind her, deep and carefully measured. Sophia turned and found herself face to face with Nathan Sterling. Photographs hadn't done him justice. He stood tall, probably 6 feet 3 inches, with broad shoulders that filled his tailored charcoal suit perfectly. His hair was dark brown, styled with precision, though a few rebellious strands softened the severity of his appearance. But it was his eyes that captured her attention. They were gray, like storm clouds, holding depths of emotion he clearly worked hard to suppress. His face was striking, all strong lines and masculine beauty, but there was a tension in his jaw, a tightness around his mouth that suggested years of practiced control. When he extended his hand for a formal greeting, Sophia noticed the slight hesitation before their skin made contact. The moment their hands touched, something electric passed between them. Nathan's grip was firm but brief, as if prolonged contact caused him discomfort. His eyes widened slightly, a crack in his composure that disappeared almost instantly. The proposition. "Please, sit," Nathan said, gesturing to a leather chair positioned across from his massive desk. He moved to his own seat with careful deliberation, creating a physical barrier between them. Sophia settled into the chair, folding her hands in her lap. "Mr. Sterling, your letter mentioned a proposition." "Yes." He steepled his fingers, his gaze fixed on a point just past her shoulder rather than meeting her eyes directly. "I need a wife." The bluntness of the statement left Sophia momentarily speechless. She blinked, certain she had misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "My grandmother passed away 6 months ago." For the first time, genuine emotion flickered across his features. Pain, loss. She left specific instructions in her will. "I must marry before my 40th birthday, which is in 8 weeks, or her entire estate will be donated to various charities, and certain family trusts will be dissolved." "But surely you know plenty of women who would—" "No,"
The word came out harsh, almost defensive. Nathan's hands clenched briefly before he forced them to relax. My grandmother was very specific about the type of person she wanted me to marry. Someone with integrity, compassion, and dedication to helping others. Your father's work caught her attention years ago. She followed the community center's progress, made anonymous donations. When she learned of his death and your struggle to maintain his legacy, she added a codicil to her will mentioning you specifically. Sophia's mind raced. This couldn't be real. You're asking me to marry you based on your grandmother's wishes? It would be a contractual arrangement. 1 year. You would live in my home, appear with me at necessary social functions, and maintain the appearance of a genuine marriage. In return, all debts associated with the community center would be paid. You would receive a substantial monthly allowance and full financial support to expand the programs. And after the year? An amicable divorce. You would receive a settlement that would ensure the community center's operation for decades. He finally met her eyes, and Sophia saw something vulnerable beneath the business-like exterior. I understand this is unconventional. Unconventional doesn't begin to cover it, Sophia murmured. She studied him carefully, noticing how he kept adjusting his cufflinks, a nervous habit that contradicted his calm facade. But why not just marry someone from your own social circle? Nathan's jaw tightened. Because this arrangement requires honesty about expectations. I cannot offer what most marriages entail. Companionship, yes. Partnership in public, certainly. But anything beyond that. He trailed off, and Sophia saw genuine distress in his expression. The confession hung in the air between them. Sophia felt her heart constrict with expected sympathy. Here was a man who had everything money could buy, yet seemed profoundly isolated by something he couldn't name. The decision. I need time to think, Sophia said softly. Of course. Nathan handed her a folder. The complete contract terms are here. You have 24 hours to decide. If you refuse, I'll respect your choice and find another solution. Sophia took the folder, her fingers brushing against his. Again, that electric sensation. Nathan pulled back quickly, but not before she saw the confusion in his eyes, as if he had felt it too and didn't understand what it meant. That evening, Sophia sat in her small apartment, the contract spread across her kitchen table. The financial terms were more than generous than she could have imagined. Every debt cleared, funding for new programs, resources to hire more staff and expand services. Everything her father had dreamed of achieving. But at what cost? Marrying a stranger, living a lie, spending a year with a man who seemed trapped behind invisible walls he had built around his heart. She thought about the families who depended on the community center, the single mothers learning job skills, the children who had a safe place after school, the elderly who found companionship in the senior programs. Could she sacrifice 1 year of her life to preserve what her father had built? Sophia looked at the photograph of her father on the mantel, his warm smile forever frozen in time. She heard his voice in her memory. Sometimes, sweetie, the bravest thing we can do is take a leap of faith. The next morning, Sophia returned to the Sterling Technologies building. Nathan was standing by the windows when she entered, his posture rigid with tension. Mr. Sterling, she said clearly, I accept your proposal. He turned slowly, and for just a moment, Sophia saw relief wash over his features before the mask of control returned. Thank you, Miss Bennett. The wedding will be arranged for next Saturday. Small, private, just the necessary witnesses. As they shook hands to seal the agreement, Sophia felt the spark between them again. Nathan felt it too. She could see it in the way his breath caught, the slight widening of his eyes. Whatever this was, it existed on both sides of this strange equation. Neither of them realized that by signing that contract, they had set in motion something far more profound than a business arrangement. They had opened a door that once unlocked would be impossible to close again.
The Sterling mansion sat behind iron gates in the most exclusive neighborhood Sophia had ever seen.
As the car pulled through the entrance, she pressed her face closer to the window, taking in the sprawling estate that would be her home for the next year. The house was modern, all clean lines and glass, beautiful in an austere way that somehow felt lonely despite its grandeur. Nathan stood waiting at the entrance, dressed casually in dark jeans and a gray sweater that made his eyes appear even more striking. Sophia noticed how he kept his distance as she approached, maintaining at least 3 feet of space between them at all times. "Welcome," he said formally. "Mrs. Chen, the housekeeper, will show you to your quarters. If you need anything, simply ask her or use the intercom system." Mrs. Chen appeared, a kind-faced woman in her 60s who greeted Sophia with genuine warmth. As they walked through the mansion, Sophia marveled at the pristine beauty of every room. Marble floors, expensive artwork, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Yet, despite all the luxury, the house felt empty. There were no family photos, no personal mementos, nothing that suggested anyone actually lived here. Her suite occupied the entire east wing. The bedroom alone was larger than her entire apartment, with a king-sized bed dressed in expensive linens, a sitting area with a fireplace, and windows overlooking a meticulously maintained garden. The adjoining bathroom featured a soaking tub and a shower large enough for 4 people. "Mr. Stirling's quarters are in the West Wing," Mrs. Chen explained gently. "He values his privacy and prefers not to be disturbed before 9 in the morning. He takes breakfast alone in his study, lunch is usually at his office, and dinner at 8 sharp if he's home." Sophia absorbed this information, understanding the unspoken message. They would be living separate lives under the same roof. The realization brought both relief and unexpected disappointment. The first week. The initial days passed in awkward silence. Sophia rarely saw Nathan except in passing. He left early for the office and returned late, always retreating immediately to his wing. When they did encounter each other in the hallways or kitchen, he would nod politely and quickly excuse himself. Sophia spent her time reorganizing the community center operations from her new home office. The financial freedom Nathan had provided was transformative. She hired 2 new social workers, renovated the children's area, and expanded the food assistance program. Yet, even as she celebrated these victories, she couldn't shake the loneliness that permeated the mansion. One evening, unable to sleep, Sophia wandered downstairs for a glass of water. She found Nathan in the dimly lit library surrounded by books, his laptop casting a blue glow on his face. He looked up, startled by her presence. "I'm sorry," Sophia said quickly. "I didn't mean to intrude." "You're not intruding. This is your home now." He closed his laptop, and she noticed the exhaustion in his eyes. "Can't sleep?" "Too quiet," she admitted, moving closer to examine the bookshelves. "I'm used to city noise." Nathan stood, maintaining his careful distance. "Would you like tea? Mrs. Chen taught me how to make chamomile. It helps sometimes." The offer surprised her. "I'd like that." They moved to the kitchen, and Sophia watched as Nathan prepared the tea with precise movements. His hands were steady, but she noticed how he avoided letting their fingers touch when he handed her the cup. "May I ask you something?" Sophia ventured, sitting at the kitchen island. Nathan remained standing, leaning against the counter across from her. "You can ask. I may not answer." "Why do you stay so far away from me? From everyone, it seems." His expression tightened. For a long moment he said nothing, his fingers gripping the edge of the counter. "It's not personal." "It feels personal," Sophia said softly. "We're supposed to be married, Nathan. Even if it's just for show, we should be able to exist in the same room without you looking like you want to flee." He turned away, staring out the dark window. "My father believed that emotional attachment was weakness. Physical affection was unnecessary.
From the time I was young, I was taught that success required absolute control over feelings, over the body's base impulses. Touching, embracing, all of it was discouraged, punished even. Sophia's heart broke at the pain in his voice. That's not normal, Nathan. That's abuse. It was discipline, but his voice wavered, suggesting he no longer believed his own words. No child should grow up without affection, Sophia said, setting down her tea and standing. She didn't approach him, respecting his boundaries. No adult should have to live that way either. Nathan's shoulders tensed. I don't know how to be any different. Maybe you don't have to change all at once, Sophia suggested gently. Maybe we just start with being friends, two people living in the same house who can talk to each other. He turned to face her, vulnerability written across his features. I wouldn't know how to be a friend either. Then we'll figure it out together. Small steps. After that night, something shifted. Nathan began leaving his study door open when he worked from home. Sophia would pass by and they would exchange small observations about their days. He asked about the community center, and she was surprised by how attentively he listened, asking thoughtful questions about the programs and the families they served. One afternoon, Sophia found Nathan in the garden, standing awkwardly among the rose bushes with pruning shears in his hands. Mrs. Chen said these needed trimming, he explained, looking uncomfortable, but I have no idea what I'm doing. Sophia laughed, the sound bright in the quiet garden. My father loved gardening. Let me show you. She moved beside him, close enough that their arms almost touched. Nathan stiffened, but didn't retreat. Sophia demonstrated the proper angle for cutting, and when she guided his hand with hers to make the first cut, she felt him trembling slightly. You're doing great, she encouraged, stepping back to give him space. Nathan made several cuts, then paused. Thank you for being patient with me. I know this situation isn't what you wanted. It's not what either of us wanted, Sophia replied, kneeling to gather the fallen rose stems. But that doesn't mean it has to be miserable. Over the following weeks, they established small rituals. Morning coffee together in the breakfast room where they would read their respective newspapers in companionable silence, evening walks through the garden before dinner. Nathan remained cautious about physical proximity, but the distance between them gradually decreased from 3 feet to 2, then to comfortable side-by-side walking. Sophia learned to read his subtle signals, the way he adjusted his collar when uncomfortable, how his left hand would flex when he was fighting the urge to retreat, the slight softening of his eyes when he was genuinely pleased about something, though he never quite smiled. The charity gala. 3 weeks into their marriage, Nathan informed Sophia they needed to attend a charity gala together. It would be their first public appearance as a married couple. I need to warn you, Nathan said as they prepared to leave. There will be photographers. People will expect to see us behave like a real couple. Sophia emerged from her room wearing a midnight blue gown that hugged her curves elegantly. Nathan's breath caught audibly when he saw her, his eyes widening with undisguised admiration before he quickly looked away. You look beautiful, he said quietly, the words seeming to escape before he could stop them. Thank you, noticed the flush creeping up his neck. You clean up pretty well yourself. In the limousine, Nathan sat rigidly, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. As they approached the venue, Sophia reached over and gently placed her hand over his. We can do this, she said softly. Nathan stared at his joined hands, his breathing shallow. But he didn't pull away. Instead, his fingers slowly uncurled, allowing her palm to rest against his. The contact sent warmth spreading through both of them. The gala was overwhelming. Hundreds of elegantly dressed people filled the ballroom, all eager to meet Nathan Sterling's mysterious new wife. Nathan kept Sophia close, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back. She could feel the tension in his touch, the effort it took for him to maintain even this level of physical contact. Mr. Sterling, congratulations on your marriage. A silver-haired businessman approached. "I must say we were all surprised. You've always been so private." "When you meet the right person, priorities change," Nathan replied smoothly, but Sophia felt his hand tremble slightly against her back. As the evening progressed, they moved through the crowd together. Nathan introduced her with genuine pride in his voice, speaking about her work at the community center with such knowledge and respect that Sophia realized he had been paying closer attention than she thought. During dinner, they sat at a table with other wealthy couples who all seemed to know each other well. The conversation flowed around topics Sophia knew little about, but Nathan would occasionally lean close to whisper explanations, his breath warm against her ear. Each time he did, she noticed he stayed near for a fraction longer.
The weeks following the charity gala brought subtle but profound changes to the Stirling mansion. Nathan began joining Sophia for breakfast rather than hiding in his study. Their conversations grew longer, deeper, moving beyond surface pleasantries to discussions about philosophy, dreams, and the things that kept them awake at night. One rainy Saturday morning, Sophia found Nathan in the library, surrounded by photo albums she had never seen before. His expression was distant, lost in memories that clearly brought him pain. "May I join you?" she asked from the doorway. Nathan looked up, and for once he didn't seem startled by her presence. "These were my grandmother's albums. I found them while going through her storage yesterday." Sophia settled onto the couch beside him, close enough that their shoulders nearly touched. Nathan didn't move away. She took that as permission to look at the photographs spread across the coffee table. The images showed a warm, elegant woman with kind eyes and a radiant smile. In many photos, she stood beside a young boy with serious gray eyes who rarely smiled. Nathan as a child, Sophia realized, her heart aching at the visible sadness in his young face. "She was the only person who ever hugged me," Nathan said quietly. "My father forbade it when he was around, but sometimes, when he traveled for business, she would visit. She would hold me and tell me stories and say that someday I would understand that love wasn't weakness." "She sounds wonderful," whispered Sophia. "She tried to counteract everything my father taught me, but by the time I was old enough to understand, the damage was already done." Nathan's hand trembled as he touched one photograph. "I was 12 when she gave up trying to convince my father to let me live with her. After that, I only saw her a few times a year." Sophia's hand moved instinctively to cover his. This time, Nathan's fingers turned, intertwining with hers. The gesture was tentative, uncertain, but it was the first time he had initiated physical contact. "She never gave up on you," Sophia said softly. "That's why her will specified someone like me. She wanted you to have a chance at the connection your father denied you." Nathan looked at their joined hands, wonder and confusion playing across his features. "I spent 38 years believing I was broken, that I was incapable of normal human connection. But when I'm with you, everything I was taught seems wrong." "Because it was wrong, Nathan." Sophia shifted closer, giving him space to pull away if needed. He didn't. "What you experienced was emotional neglect. Your father's beliefs were cruel and damaging." "Some nights I lie awake wondering what's happening to me." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I think about you constantly. When you're in another room, I find excuses to be near you. When you smile, something in my chest feels like it might explode. I've never felt anything like this, and it terrifies me." Sophia's breath caught. "Nathan, that's called attraction, connection. It's normal and beautiful." "But I don't know what to do with these feelings." Nathan's gray eyes met hers, vulnerable and desperate for understanding. "I don't know how to be close to someone. The thought of intimacy, of being that vulnerable, makes me panic. Yet I crave your presence like oxygen." The breaking point.
That afternoon, they took their usual walk through the garden, but the atmosphere between them had shifted. Nathan walked closer than ever before, their hands occasionally brushing. Each accidental touch sent electricity through both of them. "Tell me about your dreams," Nathan said suddenly. "Not the community center, your personal dreams, the things you wanted before all of this." Sophia considered the question as they stopped by the fountain. "I always imagined falling in love, not the dramatic movie version, but real love, the kind where someone sees all of you, the messy and imperfect parts, and chooses you anyway. I wanted partnership, laughter, comfort, someone to build a life with. And I took that possibility away from you," Nathan said, guilt heavy in his voice. "You gave me a year," Sophia corrected gently. "After that, I'm free to find those things." The words hung between them, and Sophia saw something flicker across Nathan's face. Pain, loss, the realization that their arrangement had an expiration date. "What if I don't want you to leave?" The confession burst from him before he could stop it. "I shouldn't have said that. It's not fair to you." "Nathan, look at me." Sophia waited until he turned back. "Why don't you want me to leave?" "Because you make everything better. The house feels like a home when you're in it. Food tastes better when we eat together. The silence doesn't feel lonely anymore." He ran his hair through his hair, frustration evident. "I know I can't give you what you deserve. I can't hold you or kiss you or do any of the things normal husbands do. But the thought of you with someone else, someone who can give you those things, makes me feel like I'm being torn apart." Sophia stepped closer, her heart pounding. "What if I told you that I don't want someone else?" Nathan's eyes widened. "You should want someone whole, someone who isn't damaged." "You're not damaged," Sophia said firmly. "You're healing. There's a difference." Before Nathan could respond, his phone rang. The ringtone indicated his office, and with a frustrated sigh, he answered. As he spoke to his assistant about some urgent matter, Sophia saw him transform back into the controlled businessman, the vulnerability disappearing behind familiar walls. "I have to go to the office," Nathan said after ending the call. "There's a situation with a merger. I'll probably be late." He left quickly, and Sophia stood alone in the garden, feeling the weight of everything unspoken between them. The discovery. That evening, unable to focus on anything else, Sophia found herself wandering through the mansion. She had avoided Nathan's wing out of respect for his privacy, but tonight, drawn by an inexplicable need to understand him better, she found herself at his door. It was slightly ajar, and through the opening she could see his bedroom. Unlike the rest of the house, this space was different, warmer. The walls were covered with bookshelves overflowing with volumes on philosophy, psychology, and human behavior. On his nightstand sat a framed photo of his grandmother and a newer picture that made Sophia's breath catch. It was from the charity gala, a candid shot of Nathan looking at her with an expression of such tender longing that it made her heart ache. But what truly captured her attention was the journal lying open on his desk. Sophia knew she shouldn't look, that it was a violation of privacy, but something compelled her forward. The entry was dated 2 days ago. "I am losing control of my carefully constructed life, and I find I don't care. Sophia has become essential to me in ways I cannot articulate. Today she laughed at something I said, and the sound filled me with such joy I thought I might shatter from it. I want to touch her face, to know if her skin is as soft as it looks. I want to hold her hand without fear coursing through my veins. I want to tell her that somewhere between the contract signing and now, I fell completely in love with her. But how can I offer love when I don't know how to express it physically? How can I ask her to accept a relationship without the intimacy she deserves? My father's voice still echoes in my mind, telling me that desire is weakness, that the body's needs are shameful. But when I look at Sophia, all I feel is this overwhelming need to be close to her, to learn what it means to connect with another person completely. I am terrified of failing her. I am more terrified of losing her." Sophia pressed her hand to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. He loved her. Nathan Sterling, the man who claimed to be incapable of connection, was in love with Sophia, and he was suffering because he believed he couldn't give her what she needed. Sophia heard the front door open downstairs. Nathan had returned. Without thinking, she rushed to meet him, finding him in the foyer, removing his coat. "Sophia," he looked surprised to see her. "Is everything all right?" "I read your journal," she blurted out. "I know I shouldn't have, and I'm sorry for invading your privacy. But Nathan, I read what you wrote about me." His face went pale, then flushed with embarrassment and fear. "You had no right." "I know, I'm sorry, but I'm glad I did, because you need to hear this." Sophia closed the distance between them. "I love you too." Nathan froze, his eyes wide with shock. "You can't. I can't give you—" "Stop telling me what you're not capable of," Sophia interrupted. "You're capable of so much more than you believe. Yes, your father damaged you. Yes, you have fears and struggles. But Nathan, you've already shown me more genuine affection and care than many men who have no such obstacles. The way you listen to me, the way you remember details about my work, the way you've slowly let me into your world."